Welcome back. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite techniques, which is Hakula, and it comes to us from the ancient Hawaiian Kahuna. Kahuna means holder of the secret, and they would pass down this shamanic knowledge from generation to generation to generation. So it's very packed and meaningful, and it directly applies to all of us yogis. It directly applies to what the yogis were trying to do with the spiritual eye and the way that they would gaze into it. And so this description of Hakula just happens to be very easy to transmit and pick up and begin to practice. So it's a really easy way to step into that knowledge. And I want to have one video dedicated to it. And I also want to tell you a story. So let's get into it. This story comes from one of my viewers, and he was on a mountain trail with his brother, and his brother started having a panic attack. He didn't quite know what to do, but he remembered Hakala, and it saved his brother's life, possibly. So this morning I went on a hike with my brother through some mountains. My brother is not experienced in nature or mountain trails. He started getting pretty upset, then after a few minutes developed into a pretty strong panic attack. It must have been up kind of high, right? We were unable to continue safely. I didn't really know what to do at that point, but fortunately, I remembered a technique you had taught with a peripheral vision, and the fingers starting out in front, then slowly moving them to the sides of one's vision. I was able to get my brother still enough so I could explain it to him simply. Just a few moments was all that it took. He pretty much fell right out of the panic response. He said it was a lifesaver, maybe literally, and we were able to hike out safely. So big thank you. That's so amazing. I love that. I had one other person tell me recently that Hakala saved their life. It's such an easy way to transition very quickly from the left brain, which kind of puts us in that predator mode, into an expansive right brain attitude. If we keep practicing it over and over again, we will get more versed in that expansive attitude. And then you can go into meditation and adopt that same expansive attitude, and it makes the whole thing even deeper. So how do we do this great, amazing technology? How do we do that, Forrest? Well, it's very simple. It's very easy, and that's what makes this technique so great. It's so simple to explain. You just pick one point straight in front of you on the wall or in the corner of the room, or you pick one tree in front of you and you just concentrate on the tip of that tree. Whatever point you pick, you want to make it slightly above eye level. That's helpful, right? Slightly above eye level, and then while you're concentrating on that one point, you open up your peripheral vision and try and notice everything on the one side and everything on the other side. So I'm looking straight ahead. That's where my attention is, but I'm opening it up. I'm opening up my peripheral vision. And one of the ways you can do that is with your fingers. You just open it up and keep watching your fingers. And make sure you can still see them. Make sure they're still in your peripheral vision as you go backwards. And that will open up your periphery. And we go from being the predator to being expansive in the right brain. Another way to describe this is to look straight ahead and try and take everything in. So I'm going to take in the chair, I'm going to take in the table, I'm going to take in the wall, I'm going to take all the walls in, I'm going to take all the colors in, I'm going to take in all the sounds and all the sights and all the smells and all the tastes and the feeling of my body. I'm going to take all of that input into myself and try and hold all of it in my mind at once. That's another way to practice. It's a very similar idea We're taking everything in. Not just one thing, we're taking everything in at once, including ourselves. That's another way to practice Hakula. It's taking everything in, just absorbing all of it, taking it all in. It's a really, really amazing way to switch from the left brain to the right brain. So if you have doubts about the left brain and the right brain, because there's neurologists that will tell you today, oh, that's all phooey. You don't need, that's incorrect, they will say. Currents go through the brain all the time. They go through the left side, they go through the right side. We gather information from the left, we put it together with information from the right, and that's how our brains work continuously. But we're not identified with both. We are identified with the left. And that makes all of the difference. Because when you're in a predator mode, there's an attitude, there's a feeling, there's a way of doing things. And when you're identified with the right, expansiveness, there's a different attitude and there's a different way of doing things. That makes all the difference. And so it's not about currents going through the brain. It's about identification. It's about being identified with the little self or the big self. That's the difference, you see. So when the yogi looks into the spiritual eye, there's a riddle that they tell. In South India, they say, look, but don't look. So you're looking at the spiritual eye, but you're not trying to look at the spiritual eye. You're not trying to drive your way into it. You're not trying to, you're not having this kind of forceful, aggressive attitude as you look at the spiritual eye, as you look at the light of the spiritual eye, or if you're just gazing upwards in closed eyes, looking towards the spiritual eye. We're not trying to drive our way through it, right? We look, but we don't look. And so that's that expansiveness. So as we look, we don't just, we just relax and let go. That's the not looking part. So there's a look, just like Hakula. We pick one point, but then we open up our peripheral vision, right? We just keep going back, keep going back. How far back can I wiggle my fingers and still see them while I'm looking forward? To do that, my peripheral vision has to be open. My eyes have to be dilated. So sometimes I say, well, you got to dilate your eyes. People are like, you can't do that consciously. You can. Once you learn to do this, you will learn to consciously dilate your eyes. That's what you're doing when you open your peripheral vision. And if you want to see spiritual light in meditation, it's very, very important and helpful that you learn to dilate your eyes. Think about a yogi sitting in a cave day after day, month after month. What's going to happen? Their eyes are going to dilate. And that's going to let you see some of that more subtle interior light. It's a feedback. It's a feedback through the brain. That's all it is. It's a feedback through the brain. It's a little bit of the origin of light in the brain. The part of the brain that holds all images is the right hippocampus. That means it's the holder of light in the brain. And it casts some of that light through the corpus callosum. And that's what we're seeing in meditation. We're seeing that juncture between the left brain and the right brain. Doesn't that blow your mind? Isn't that amazing? So that's Hakula. And adopting that attitude is the same attitude that the yogi embraces in meditation when he's gazing into the spiritual eye. Now, I recommend when you're doing gazing into the spiritual eye, most of the time I would recommend that you just do it subconsciously. So you look up, maybe you lift your tongue, let those be relegated to your subconscious mind. In other words, make them a habit and let them be automatic, and put your whole attention either on the breath or the Om Japa in the chakras. That's what I recommend. So make lifting your eyes and lifting the tongue automatic. Don't make it a conscious effort constantly. And that will help you to adopt this attitude of look, but don't look. That riddle, right? How do you do that? You look, but you don't look. That's how you do it. You open your peripheral vision. Isn't that amazing? So it all comes together. And Hakula, this description from these ancient Hawaiian kahuna, these shamanic masters, it was simply just very well stated and very well encapsulated. And we can grab that and transition very quickly from the left brain to the right brain. And here's a test. Here's a test to test it out. Think about something that happened not too long ago that's very small, a small negative emotion that you might have, or think of something that you really, really want. So think of that negative emotion or that thing that you really want, right? And think of it and then go into Hakula. Keep thinking about it and go into your peripheral vision. And what happens to that feeling? What happens to that? It goes away, doesn't it? Because you're moving from the left brain to the right brain and you're feeling it. And it happens like that. And so this brother who was hiking the mountains and getting higher and higher and, oh my God, this is really high. You know, that tension and that panic that was starting to seize him, which is in the left brain. I can't get over this panic. He just went into his peripheral vision, and what happened? It evaporated because he adopted the expansive mental attitude. It's really magical. And if you can do it outside to a big landscape, it's phenomenal. And somebody told me once, he said, well, you're looking at one point and then you're looking here and you're looking here, and it's because you can only think of one thing at a time. That's not true. In the left brain, you can only think of one thing at a time. But the right brain is a multiprocessor, and it takes everything in at once. Doesn't mean you're consciously thinking about them, but you're holding them in your awareness. It's a multiprocessor. And that's why getting in touch with the right brain is so meaningful and amazing, because all these answers just kind of click together suddenly. And you're like, how did that happen? It's because you're not stuck in a linear processor. You just opened yourself to the expansive multiprocessor, and all those things just kind of click together that have been inside of you waiting to click together. Isn't that amazing? So I hope you love this. I hope you try out Hakula. Try it out all day. Not while you're driving. Don't do it while you're driving. I was going down the freeway and I started to go into Hakula and I started to go into absorption. I'm like, whoa! I don't think that's a good idea while I'm driving. So maybe don't do it while you're driving, okay? Don't make that a habit. But any other time you're sitting at your office, you got 5 minutes, go into Hakula. You're sitting in a meeting, you got to listen to all these people, go into Hakula for just a little bit. Open up your expansive right brain, and it'll feel like you're just letting all the information flow inside of you, and all these connections will come together automatically. It's a beautiful thing, beautiful thing. I hope you love it as much as I do. You can take this all the way into Samadhi. You can take Hakula all the way into a union state. That's how deep it is, because it induces the right brain. So we follow the program of yoga. We enter into a low idle state through practicing heart rate variability resonance, right? Which lowers the heart rate very simply and very easily. And then we adopt this expansive attitude, and we have a 1-2 punch. We've got a jab, which is the dorsal vagal complex awakening, and we have the knockout punch, which is inducing the right brain. And you will have the most amazing meditation. Maybe it won't be everything. It won't be Samadhi. Maybe not today, but it will be great, and it will get greater as you keep practicing. So I hope you love this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you next time.